Wie geht's, Breezy? Ooh, it has been quite a week. I'm excited to get into it. So here we go with episode 22.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
Okay, so for today's music section, I got to play this epic festival called Bremenale, which is this big, like, city-wide free music festival that spans several days, and it was fire. And I got to be in the lineup with these great artists: Queen Who, Zatari, who am I forgetting? Like, because I need to say the last part. Lila Sylvia, like all these people up on stage, choreography, rapping, singing. Everyone had great voices. Everyone had incredible energy, like dance moves. It was insane. And there was Skuff Barbie. And it was really cool because being on the lineup with another artist, you never really know how you're going to connect or interact with people, and artists are people. So yeah, you just never know. But this person just struck me with their spirit so much that I was like, I have to talk about them on the podcast and give them some shine, because I love what she does, and it's incredible. So here we go. Music. Okay, Skuff Barbie, here we go. So Skuff Barbie is from Münster in Deutschland, and really cool story, and really also there's a lot of weight with the story as well. So right off the bat, their music, like, she just caught me by surprise. And I keep saying they because at the festival, Skuff Barbie played with DJ Boomboy. And this is such a fun fact. Like, a lot of artists, like my booker, for instance, Fina, they all work at Kitas, which are like kindergartens, or like schools. You know, just it's a great place to be when you're like a sensitive soul and you care about people. And so there's a lot of artists who work at schools, and so this DJ Boomboy was working at a school and met who would become Skuff Barbie when she was 7 years old. And they, you know, there was like probably some program or something where like he took the kids to the studio or something like this. And so then many years later, like once she turned 18, she went to him and was like, I want to like get on beats and rap and sing and all this stuff. And so it is so cool. They played their set together, and he supports her on these gigs. So I, like, you just find out these little stories about people, and it's like, damn, that's so interesting. So Skuff Barbie's latest release is called Meine Freunde, Eure Feinde. And it's my friends, like, are your enemies. And it's really fierce. And I was so impressed, because like their vocal abilities, their rap skills, their stage presence, like their act had so much boom boom, and she's just so like so full of light, even when talking about like hard things and I don't know, lyricism. I mean, it is in German, so I'm not understanding every single word. But from what I do get in the power in the messages, it's really great. So, I linked the video for Meine Freunde, Eure Feinde from Skuff Barbie. And you'll see the swagger, you'll see the bars, the flow. So cool. She's from Equatorial Guinea originally, and so speaks like German and Spanish and English. And I'm always so impressed too by people who speak, their native language, German, English. I'm like, damn, I can speak a little bit of Spanish and a little bit of German. But hey, I mean, when you are living in different places, like that's part of the migrant story, part of the experience. So I found that, okay, so then, sorry, I forgot this whole flow of events. Essentially, I said before the show, I'm going to go to bed early and stuff because I'm so like tired. I'm just at a place in my cycle where I'm like, oh God. So I wanted to like not stay and party and like that sort of thing. And so I ended up waking up at like 7 or 6:30 or whatever anyway, just because of pain. And so ended up like hitting the breakfast around like 7:30. And then went back upstairs, did my hot water bottle thing, then went out to smoke some weed. And on our way back, my mom came with me. On our way back in, we ran into Skuff Barbie and DJ Boo Boy. And so I was like, oh, this is great. So we ended up sitting and having, I didn't eat again, but joining them for breakfast. And it's just like, sometimes with artists, it's just like talking to family. Like they just inherently understand so much about everything. So, especially the artists that I meet, people in hip hop who are like AFAB or, femme, sometimes the connection can be immediate, and that's what it was. But beyond that, she was talking about people having egos and being on the same lineup as you but not wanting to like talk to you or whatever. And I've definitely experienced that, and it's so cool when you meet people who have none of that shit, like none of that ego shit, and who know their power and who can be confident enough to interact and be open with other acts too. And one of my favorite parts is meeting the other artists on the gig, so on the lineup, because if I'm booked next to them, then we're in the same like relative category, which means that we should be following each other on Instagram, like just like that kind of little way to show support. So yeah, definitely check out Meine Freunde, Eure Feinde. Definitely follow, like, it's so dope too, because Skuff Barbie is so developed as an artist, but I think from what I can tell, she only has this one song like officially released. So I'm sure there's so much good shit coming. She said she's working with several labels right now here in Germany that is popular, like to have these small super like small independent like family like labels to be able to support each other. So I cannot wait to see what she's got coming. Shout out to Skuff Barbie. Okay, let's move on to TV. Television. Okay, so the TV show that I am choosing to talk about today is called Kitz. Now, listen, the reason why I found Kitz is because I went to Netflix. I was like, I'm getting to a point with German where I think it's starting to be fun. It's starting to be like a puzzle that you just have to put together every sentence. And, but I'm here for it now, now that I have more space in my brain. And so I was browsing by language, in honestly looking for people of color in the selection of German made films, like German language films. And so I saw this one, I saw a darker skinned, like teenager, in this one, like, the cover photo. And I was like, okay, what is this about? Now it turns out to be this kind of, I don't want to use the word trashy, but like a teen drama. What to compare it to? I don't know what to compare it to, but is a teen drama where it takes place in this very small town, like in Austria, but where they speak German, so it's very close to the German border, and it's one of those things where I was like, okay, I just want to watch something easy, something, but that maybe I don't necessarily stand for, but that I want to enjoy and really try to like pick up the language better. I really fucked with this show. And funnily enough, like after I watched, so it's like 6 episodes on Netflix. If you live in Germany, I guess if you have a VPN, you could watch it. You just set it to the German. I'm going to try that when I go back to the States. But yeah, so Kitzbühel is the town, and it's a real town in Austria. And the story, but I wanted to mention too that I looked up like reviews and stuff after I watched it, and it was like the reviews were pretty rough. I can't even say mixed at best. Like people really did not like this series, but I think the reason why was because it had more to do with the representations of like the townspeople and the rich people. So the whole thing is this, the main character, Lizzie, her twin brother died in a car, he died like driving on New Year's Eve when he was inebriated, allegedly to like go see this person who he was having an affair with. So it kind of starts out with Lizzie like wanting to seek revenge on this girl, and of course this other girl is this very rich girl who lives in this stunningly beautiful, like, I don't know, chalet. I don't know. It's insane. It's fun. I don't know. I'm not super into these Netflix budget type things sometimes, but this was fun. This was fun to see. So in the first episode in the script, they're talking about like the stages of grief, and I thought it was like really well written. And this character, she's very fierce. Like she's very focused, and there's a lot, I don't know, I felt like there's a lot of like masculinity within this main character, Lizzie. And so then you had Vanessa, this, blonde, kind of like classic looking, like Switzerland, like some Norwegian, Scandinavian type looking person, and her best friend Pippa, and then you have her boyfriend Dominic, who is black, and then you have Kosh, who is, I mean, I don't want to like guess his ethnicity, but he is brown, and all these kids except for Lizzie, like all these kids are very, very rich, come from very wealthy families. So it's kind of like you kind of have the class thing going on, but for me, it was less about the class and more, I loved the story. I loved the plot. I loved how they kept things moving. And I loved how it was about, at first it was about her seeking revenge, and then it's that classic thing of like, oh, I'm going to infiltrate the group, but then as soon as you start to infiltrate the group, you see that the group is not that bad, and like this kind of thing, like a Mean Girls or like a Clueless. Well, not really Clueless, but so yeah, I really appreciated that. The characterization was great. There was queerness represented in this series in a, I would say, in a not like shove it down your throat type way. Now, I may mention this later on in my outro, but I watched Fire Island, and that was like shoving very mainstream queerness down my throat, whereas this really felt like, oh, okay, like these characters happen to be gay. And it's I don't know. I felt like the relationship between the two main like gay characters, cis dude like gay characters, was really heartfelt and real. Like, you see sometimes these things that are supposed to be representative of queerness, and it doesn't feel real. And I really appreciated how this relationship between this, so it was Kosh, who is the brown, they're all like supposed to be in high school or whatever, and his father has just passed away, and he owns this hotel. So now Kosh owns this hotel, and it's where he lives, and his mother is like always away on trips trying to like save the world or whatever. So Kosh struggles, classic like rich kid with no friends. And then there's Hansi, who is a farmhand. Like his parents are very humble and farmers, and he like milks the cows and like does all that hardcore farm shit. And so I thought it was awesome that they had this like very classic kind of straight cis white character, how he was gay, and how they handled that within his family, and how his family was not actually unaccepting of his gayness. It was like another aspect further in the series. But these are small things, and I know, like, I'm sure, yeah, if I was from Kitzbühel or understood this dynamic of the Tyrolean, that's like the group of people from that area who I guess are not as like wealthy, and then you have like the Germans who came in, so you have like this class struggle. So if I was from there, maybe I would hate it. Like a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people who I'm like, oh, this piece of art, TV, whatever, movie from your country, and they'll like roll their eyes. And so, but the way that they handle certain things was really well done to me. Was really well done. Like, for instance, they have Dominic, this character who is a bit of a mess, but like a darker skin, like black character, and his parents are divorced. His mother is like into fashion and really like well off, and she like rocks this almost like bald-headed, very fashionable style, and she and her son have this like mature kind of relationship, and he doesn't have as good of a relationship with his father, who's remarried to a white woman and has these kids, but his father is always like telling Dominic that he had it harder than Dominic did, and that he shouldn't be relying on connections and these sorts of things, like the privilege of being wealthy. But that's what he worked for. As I think generally parents like work to make sure that their kids are going to do well. And so I thought that was very well represented, because you have people who are not necessarily like from Germany, but living lives in Germany that give certain opportunities. And it's like, why would you not take advantage of that? But I know a musician here from Nigeria who said for the first like 6 or 10 years that he lived here, he never applied for any funding because he didn't want it to be like this handout from Germany. And I really understand that perspective, that take too. So for that being like, I don't know what it's like to be African living in Europe. It's explored here because there's so many people with that story. So I felt like that conflict that the character Dominic had with his father was representative of certain types of dynamics. Yeah. This series, it was again only 6 episodes, 1 season so far. It was great. It was great. I honestly want to watch it again, and it was great for learning German too, because like the way the kids talk is like the helpful stuff. You don't need like business talk or like lawyer talk or I don't know, medical talk. Like you just need like, hey, what's up? So it was great. I feel like I learned some German and had a great time doing it. And the twists were so good. And yeah, I don't know. If anyone ends up watching this, definitely let me know what you think. Maybe I'm completely off. Like maybe it's just trash. But I was like, I mean, sometimes it is so hard to find something that I can just get through without coming up with things in my mind that are like, why am I wasting my time? So it passed the Breezy barometer of, acceptance. So there it is, Kitzbühel. Check it out. And let's move on to film. Movies. Film. All right. And lastly, for this week, it's the second time through that I've watched Standout, an LGBTQ celebration. So I don't happen upon Netflix super often these days, but I saw that this comedy special had happened at this Netflix is a Joke festival, and the lineup is just insane. Like all of the comedians kept talking about like how historic the night was and how unprecedented it was. So I don't know that there's ever been, such a powerhouse lineup in like queer lineup. So I'm just going to read the names of who appeared on stage in the order that they appeared on stage. And I'm sure there's someone who will resonate with you. Okay. Okay, here we go. Billy Eichner started us off. Bob the Drag Queen emceed. Mae Martin, this hilarious comic from UK, Canada. Ani DeFranco, Margaret Cho, Trixie Mattel, Joel Kim Booster, Sam J, Sarah Paulson, Tig Notaro, Scott Thompson as Buddy Cole, Gina Yashira, Mateo Lane, Stephen Fry, Eddie Izzard, Marsha Warfield, Patty Harrison, Guy Branum, Solomon Giorgio, Judy Gold, Lena Waithe, Wanda Sykes, Lily Tomlin, Sandra Bernhard, Billy Porter, Rosie O'Donnell, and Fortune Feimster was there too. This was insane. It was like, how do you even fit, like, it's probably like an hour and a half long or something. How do you even fit all of those people in the lab? I'm sure they had like a big ass screen somewhere or someone in their ear being like, okay, you have 3 minutes left or something, because they ran a tight show. It was beautiful to see. Now, it did take place, in West Hollywood or whatever, like in this gay kind of mecca. And it's my experience in West Hollywood has been very like white gay centric. So there is that sort of feel, but you get the sense that the crowd is fairly, there's, there's some different people going on there, but like, I say that because I think that that's important. Like there's this mindset and this kind of like, oh, we are at a certain level or have achieved a certain amount of things, like in the certain bubbles. And anyway, Bob the drag queen started things off with a joke about, Bob was like, okay, so if you're a gay man, like, make some noise or something like that. And he was like, okay, stop being so proud of yourselves. You need to stop being mean to lesbians. And that's totally a thing in the community. Like, I'm really seeing it. I don't identify as a lesbian, but I really see that divide in that there is kind of solidarity from lesbians towards gays, but not really like a lot of the other way around. It doesn't feel that way. It kind of feels like sometimes that, like, among cis gay men, it can feel like it's like a new form of the patriarchy. If you're queer and, AFAB or non-binary or something like that. And I'm going to bring up Fire Island again because I'm pissed still. But like watching Fire Island, it was like, wow, there's so much for you out there if you are a cis gay male. Like there's a lot out there for you. And there isn't a whole lot out there for the femmes. So it's just, I don't know. I felt like it was really awesome to see people like Lily Tomlin and Rosie O'Donnell and of course, like, I love my like Sam J and Marsha Warfield and like Lena Waithe and Wanda Sykes, like some of these women of color, black women, black gay women, black queer women, like that. To me, it's like, I don't know where to go where we get all those people together. So even to have so many black queer comics on the lineup here was fantastic. I know Bob identifies as non-binary, so to have a black non-binary drag queen up there. Margaret Cho talked about how she used to be a hardcore lesbian in the 90s or the 80s or the 90s, and how now she's bisexual and how that exists. Just think, like, once you get into a certain space, you don't realize what you've been missing. And so it was just phenomenal to see each of these acts. It really blew my mind. Like, everyone was so fucking funny. It's all like wrapped up in this understanding of like, we are still hated, we are still oppressed, and yet, we're still up here, we're finding joy, we're sharing our experiences, we're being stupid, we're being funny, we're being real, we're being deep. I mean, I love when, I think it's, of course, some comedians can do like some topics very well, but I love when a comedian takes something super mundane and makes it funny as fuck. Like Sam J was talking about how like some people had to like get it like at the airport, how some other people had to be checked for this and that, and her girlfriend got through with her lotion, so it was a good day. It's just like something so small like that. Gina Yashira talked about dogs. She did a bit about dogs. She made it so funny. So funny. Because I'm not a huge animal person, It was hilarious. No, but it's positive. Like she ends up like loving dogs, but it's so good. These comedians. I think there's some. I forget where I heard this, but probably Dave Chappelle. But like, there's this mutual, I think, love and respect that goes across music and comedy, because musical artists are giving the world their spin, and I would say comedians are giving the world their spin as well. It's just, they present a little differently. So yeah, and I've tried stand up. I did a little workshop in this like women in comedy like week or whatever in Boston. It was so difficult. I was like, wow, you really have to prepare for this. We had to do some sort of on the spot type of shit. That did not work for me very well. I definitely love to prepare and like write shit down. So eventually I would love to try to tell some jokes, but this was not about me telling jokes. This was about an epic lineup of queer comedians coming together. Now, of course, like I can critique, like were there any like black trans folks there? Were there any? I can critique, but overall, I felt like this was a pretty quote unquote diverse lineup. Okay. I highly recommend. I've seen it twice. I'm going to see it many more times. It was great. It was really great. I mean, fuck. Where else can you get all of these people in the same room? Like, I was just thinking about the party afterwards too. I feel like Margaret Cho turns way the fuck up. I feel like Billy Eichner turns up. I feel like Tig Notaro goes home and goes to bed. I feel like so many of them must have been like, damn, we are here. Let's just celebrate each other. And it just made me so happy. So happy. Yes, I want more of this. Not these like quote unquote queer shows that have been based off of marketing analytics and like streams and shit. Give me a nice night of beautiful queer people who have fought hard to exist and to get up on the stage, after so many years. Okay. I'm going to stop this there. Obviously, highly recommend. And let's move on to the outro. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself. Okay, so I'm kind of scooting through this episode rather quickly, but I watched a couple films. Obviously, Fire Island is one of them. I watched a couple films that I wished better for. I watched a couple films that were touted as this and that. And I was so disappointed that I felt like I had to mention. So it's like, I don't want those to be my main pieces that I'm driving your attention to. But also, I have to mention it just on a personal level. So first up, Thelma and motherfucking Louise. I've heard Thelma and Louise my whole life. Like this has been not my whole life. It came out in like 90, I don't know, 1 or something. This definitely has been considered like one of those classic feminist movies. I beg to differ. Okay. This movie was all the fuck over the place. Sometimes I think, okay, it's like a major studio, so of course they're gonna have certain shit together. They did not. Like, it was, okay, so where do I begin? Thelma and Louise stars Gina, oh God, what's her name? Gina Davis, and I'm not so up on my white women lately. Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon. We also have Brad Pitt in this movie, and like Harvey Keitel as this like overly sympathetic cop. So, or FBI agent. So the whole kind of thing is supposed to take place, you know, like they kind of start out in the Midwest, and then they're supposed to be heading to this cabin, but then they end up heading like south and towards like the middle of the country. But these accents were terrible. And I'm gonna call in Susan Sarandon specifically. What the hell? Like, she needed a coach. I don't know if I saw one in the credits. Brad Pitt, also terrible Southern accent. Gina, I don't know if she gets away with it because she's so like charming or whatever, but why could they not have cast people who actually sounded like they're from the Midwest? Was my first thing. Okay, so plot wise, Gina or Thelma is married to Daryl, I think his name is, who's an asshole, and she doesn't know anything different because she started dating him when she was 14 or something sad like that. So, okay. And Susan Sarandon, Louise has a boyfriend and is, I guess, perfectly fine with him, but wants to get out of town. So they go on this vacation, and Thelma's too scared to even tell Daryl, so she just leaves him like a bottle of wine in front of the microwave. So they head off on this road trip. They're supposed to be best friends. I don't see it. I don't see any kind of affection or tenderness for one another in these two. I think Thelma like kind of respects Louise, but Louise just seems to like be yelling at Thelma all the time. What the fuck? So they first stop. They go to a bar, which Thelma wants to, like, she's like getting wild, you know, never been away from Daryl, I guess, in her whole adult life. And so wants to go to the bar, starts drinking many drinks. They're both slamming it down. I don't know what the plan is here, but lots of drinks. There's this creep who comes over. Eventually there's this misunderstanding where Louise goes to the bathroom and then Thelma's outside. And so they miss each other for a second. And this guy, he starts to sexually assault her. And not only that, he hits her in the face like so hard. So he's beating on her and about to rape her when Louise comes. But what happens is Louise gets Thelma away from this guy. This guy is far enough away so that they're going to be okay. Thelma decided to bring this pocket gun or whatever with her, but doesn't want to hold on to it. So is with Louise. And Louise decides after, like, because he says something disrespectful, and she shoots him in the chest. So she kills this dude with this like tiny little gun. I'm like, okay, fine. So now they're on the run. They're going this and that way, and they're like once the news gets around that this guy has been shot and killed, and it could be these two ladies, or it could be whatever, they know the car or something like that. There's this, they get the FBI on it. So there's like way too many FBI agents involved in this shooting or killing of this dude from this like two women who are driving around in a Thunderbird with the top down. Like, I know there wasn't the internet, but could not be more obvious. So something that really bothered me in the film was that Louise kept referencing something that happened in Texas, and that was the reason why they had to like drive all which way and that. And Thelma kind of hit on it that she got sexually abused in Texas, but they never talk about it. And it becomes this thing towards the end of the film where this FBI agent, I don't know why he is so sympathetic to these women, but like he wants to save them. He feels like he understands why they've made every move that they've made and he wants to save them. This would never happen for women of color. Okay? I don't know what, like, and then he alludes to this thing that happened to her in Texas. They throw in this line, I know what happened to you in Texas. And she just shuts it down. And it's like, what the hell? Like, I hate when we are like given something and it doesn't resolve. There is a scene that is really obscene. Okay, so they're on the run, Bonnie and Clyde, whatever. And they end up going, it's so stupid too. They're supposed to be on their way to Mexico, but they are driving through Utah, clearly. So fucking weird. Like they didn't have a map when planning out this movie. And so they're driving through Utah. There's this cop that pulls them over, and then they kind of like, you know, pull a fast one on the cop, grab his gun, and then like, you know, stuff him in the trunk and make sure that he can breathe. So they're not like trying to kill him, but they put him in the trunk. Okay, badass moment, cool. Later on, they have this biker who is a dark-skinned black man with dreads. He's listening to reggae music and smoking a joint. Let me tell you how this would never happen in Utah, land of the Mormons. This would never happen. Weed is not legal. Black people are barely legal in Utah. Like so what happens in this scene is this biker with locks and listening to reggae music, whatever, smoking the joint, rolls up to this cop car on his bike, okay? And then he goes over to the cop car. He can kind of tell that there's someone in there, and he takes a hit and blows the weed smoke into the trunk. Okay, is it funny on some level? Is it funny to white people? Yes, I guess. But this would never this to me was like, okay, I'm so done with this movie. Like, are you serious? The swiftness with which this man would be shot or imprisoned. Egregious. And furthermore, okay, I'm just going to get right into it. Towards the end, they have way too many people surrounding these women, you know, shutting them down. There's nowhere else for that. They happen to end up on the Grand Canyon. They could turn themselves in, but instead, this is what happens. Complete spoiler alert, they kiss and they drive off into the canyon. Now, that's not something I have an issue with. The issue is that they do a fade to white. So we don't even see the car like crash or blow up or anything. We just see a fade to white. Okay. And the script writer, when asked about this ending, said, oh, you know, we didn't want to leave you with like a negative image. Like they just go off into heaven together and like float off in, and we didn't want it to be too heavy. You showed this man beating this woman and almost raping her, and you're not going to show from a distance, a safe distance, like some fantastic explosion or something that ends with Thelma and Louise, like, and then I just felt like this movie. And then on top of that, there's times where they speak over each other in the scenes. There's time where the editing makes no sense. I hated it. Okay. Strong. Hated it. Also, what's the fucking messaging that, because there's this other point during the film where they stay in this motel. For some idiot reason, Louise gives Thelma this envelope of cash. Then Brad Pitt comes, slinks back into the hotel room. He says he's a robber. He tells Thelma that he robs stores. And she, the next morning after they have sex, because she's all like afterglow or whatever, leaves him in the hotel room with the envelope of cash, making her look like an idiot. An idiot. Come on. Like, that's like, I know she hasn't like, she doesn't have like a lot of street smarts and all that stuff, but like, Louise, what the fuck? Why would you give that envelope of your money to Thelma anyway? This movie, I try to find the sense in it, and I just can't find sense in anything. And then on top of that, you have these two women who are continuing to break out of what society, you know, like coming more and more outside the law, which is cool. It's empowering. There's a scene and a half in there that's empowering. But then the answer, the ultimate messaging is for two women who have broken outside of the law. The only answer is to drive into death. Like, because they were too afraid of going to prison. I don't know. This was a white woman movie or something. Someone break it down to me. Someone tell me Thelma and Louise, like, someone make it make sense. It does not make sense to me. Is it historic because it featured two women at the time? You know, maybe not a lot of movies like focused on the friendship between two women. Because it passes the Bechdel test, you know, from Alison Bechdel, the cartoonist, where like two women need to like talk to each other, not about someone who they're like, not about a love interest and whatever. And so I don't understand. Okay. Moving on. Fire Island. Now, once again, I'm going to be supportive of, you know, this Asian gay cis man who wrote the whole script and stars in it, and he's a stand-up comedian. But oh my God, it felt like you could replace the characters with straight characters and it would still be the same. Like, there were some funny lines in there about gay culture. There were some really good laughs. I'll give it to you, Joel Kim Booster. I think you're a good writer. But this basing it off of Pride and Prejudice and then having it feel like an underdeveloped kind of like girls trip, but not half as good. Like, I just don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know. And they said that he wrote the script and then they got, it was going to be for some smaller release platform, but then Fox Searchlight wanted to pick up the story. And so I'll say this, Bowen Yang was the best part about Fire Island. And what bothered me is that the plot, so they right off the bat, he's talking about how poor he is, and the main character, Noah, lives in Brooklyn and it works as a nurse. So like, don't throw the word poor around in the grand scheme of New York economics, when you live in a nice apartment in Brooklyn. Like, like, that doesn't work for me. And every year they go to Fire Island, and of course it's great to see Margaret Cho as like this, but then even how they describe her character as this like this kind of like strung out caterer or bartender, you know, for her whole life, but then like ate a piece of glass to get this settlement, and she's like terrible with money. And there were a lot of things that just didn't sit right with me about this film. But the biggest thing that didn't sit right with me was, and I'm not a cis gay man, right? I'm not a cis gay man, but it really bothered me how Noah's whole mission on this year's trip to Fire Island, Noah's whole mission was to make sure that was to make sure that his friend Howie got laid. That was the mission. And Howie was like, no, like I'm more into romance. And Noah's like, no, I'm not going to have sex until you have sex. That to me is so, it's rape culture-y. And to have that be represented in this movie that's already giving like a lot of white women, like a lot of white women as a concept, not as characters. It was a lot. It felt like the quote unquote diversity of the group felt very tokenized. It just felt like okay, as a mulatto, right? Or like as some people who are mixed and have mixed race and have white as one of their races. It is complex and complicated because you think that whiteness is right and is the answer and is the way to connect and stuff. And so I feel like similarly with like the race thing, the patriarchal thing, the thing about sex and sex culture, like there's been so many movies, films, TV shows that I've seen where it's something like that with the women. And it's like, okay, like she just broke up with her boyfriend and she needs to get laid. That's going to change everything. And and it's like, not everybody is like that. Like, not everybody uses sex to like smooth things over or resolve issues, and it doesn't work. And so and then there's this whole Pride and Prejudice thing that's supposed to be playing out between the character Noah and this character Will, who's like supposed to be Mr. Darcy. It was so weird. Like this guy, he's just grumpy and it seems for no reason, and just hangs out with these other, like he's apparently rich, but he just like with this other group of people who are white and wealthy. And listen, this movie was not for me, and that's fine. Not every movie written by a cis gay Asian man is going to be for me, but I've seen projects feel like Kiss Buell, right? Like it's not hitting you over the head with like, this is a gay movie. This is a gay TV series. No, there's just regular characters who happen to be queer. And I felt like this thing, there was a year when I thought it would be a good idea, idiot, to go to Provincetown for the 4th of July. So if you think about Cape Cod, and like if Massachusetts, like Cape Cod is like the arm or something, like P-Town is the fist. Haha, that's funny. And so I went there with 3 like cis gay friends and cis male gay friends, and it felt like being at Disneyland, like all the bad things about being at an amusement park. Like it just felt like overcrowded and expensive, and like I don't know. It seems to serve such a, like, yeah, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's just not for me, because I'm not a cisgendered gay man. But if any of y'all have seen this movie, let me know what you think. I felt like it was pretty, like it lacked so much depth that it was hard to find like redeeming shit. There were some cute moments, but I don't know. Like, for instance, there's these characters, Luke and, I don't even know what this one brown character's name is off the top, because I think it was Keegan, but like they didn't include him. And so with the stories, they had Margaret Cho have more story, and they had the one white character of the group. Luke is the one who like gets involved more story wise, and the brown character and the black character are completely left out. Like they're just sidekicks with like one-liners here and there that are funny, but like, what are you doing? you're like replaying the oppressive forces within your art. I don't know. And I'm very open towards art that comes from people from all over the place. But I don't know. Do I expect more because Joel Kim Booster is Asian? Like, and is that even fair? Is that fair? I don't know. I felt this way when I watched that holiday. It was like I have no idea what it was called, but it was like the gay holiday movie with Jennifer Coolidge, and I just felt like it was like hitting me over the head with this shit that just didn't feel real. So let me know your feedback if you've seen any of these films, but I just had to get this shit off my chest because sometimes you watch things and you want to support the work. You want to support the shoulders that later work has developed from, but this was, oof, these were rough. Okay. Just a note about my weekend. I had a really powerful weekend. I got to play at this Bremenale in Bremen. It's kind of near Hamburg. It's like towards the north of Germany. And it was so cool. I found out that like Bremen and Oakland have some like sister city shit going on. I found out that it's a very like political town and they have a very huge queer scene. So, and I was kind of like the headliner, like, I don't know, headliner, not really, but like I was the last, I think I was the last like rapper or like live artist to go. I think after me was DJs. So it was really cool because if you play at like 10:30 or 11, like that's when people really want to get down with stuff. And so there were so many people there and people really fucked with it. They really did. And I feel sometimes insecure because my physical condition doesn't allow me to like rehearse as much and my voice still has a long way to go. Playing inside for 100 or 200 people is so different than playing a festival open air for like 500 people. So the energy that I get from those people will translate into like the charge that I give my voice. So I need to like figure out how to train my voice more to not to be a bit stronger with the singing parts. But I don't know, I just love it. I come so alive like through the music, and it was great to play Queer POC for the first time and to hear people in the audience like singing it with me and stuff. It was powerful. So I'll definitely post a video or two on the Patreon from this past weekend because it was a big deal for me. Like this was like a milestone. So yeah, really good week. Super looking forward to the Queer Pride, the Christopher Street Day performance that I'm going to be doing next weekend. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here, to be doing my thing and be connecting with people over queerness and being a person of color, being Black, speaking to issues. So many other artists here are doing it too, and I feel like I'm in such good company. So shout out to my mom, Jo, always, and Fina for booking the gig, and just, yeah, feeling really grateful. Super dankbar. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. See you next time.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.